Next up, we would now like to invite Ms. Sharen Ong, a lead educational therapist at DAS who had conducted several arts workshops designed for students with dyslexia to present on the perspectives of adolescents with dyslexia and insight through images. Ms. Sharen Ong has completed her postgraduate certificate in specific learning differences with London Metropolitan University and her Masters of Arts in Special Education needs with University of South Wales. Her research interests include motivation, perspectives of children and young adults with dyslexia, and the exploration of arts for students with special learning needs. Let us now put our hands together for Ms. Sharen Ong.
Thank you, Ashikin. And welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. My name is Sharen. Okay, today I'm going to share with you the research study that I've done for my master's dissertation. The title is The Perspective of Adolescents with Dyslexia and Insight Through Images. Just a little bit of preview of what it is. It's using photography and semi-structured individual interviews to gain insight on how these participants actually perceive their personal learning differences as well as how they think others view their learning differences. Just an overview of what I'm going to share today: the rationale, methodology, findings, conclusion, as well as possible future researches. Okay, just a little bit about me. I've been working with the DAS as an educational therapist for about 7 years now. I've taught students as young as preschool, nursery, all the way to secondary school. I found that quite a handful of them actually have difficulties in expressing their thoughts and feeling. Sometimes it could be just a day-to-day activity where they have issues simply just to come up with something to talk about. So there's no trigger, there's no relations to what they are going to talk about, and sometimes they just go blank. Which is why I came upon I start to ponder how to help my students express themselves better in class, and also how to help my participants then, if I'm going to do a research, to express themselves better when we are having an interview. Next, also how to improve our interview session for myself as well as my participants. I went on for some research, and I found out that what we have done so far in the past, we usually use traditional method like one-on-one semi-structured interview, where it's one participant to one interviewee. One interviewer to one interviewee. And we all know that participants who have learning issues, sometimes they do have issues actually articulate their thoughts, expressing themselves. They have issue talking about how they really feel. And this situation where it's one-on-one, one participant and one interviewer, may cause them to feel intimidated. They are not very sure how to share what they feel like talking about, and they may not even be sure what the interviewer are actually talking about. So is she asking me this, and am I answering it correctly? And because of that, it leads to insufficient and inaccurate data. So whatever the interviewer actually collected might not be a genuine response that we wanted. So what I've went on to research on and found out that successful methods or successful tools that has been used so far includes photography as well as art. They use this as tool to actually elicit response from participants. And what they found out is, based on what they have used so far for participants with learning needs, it actually helps to elicit more successful and more genuine response. Which leads me to think about, okay, this is going to be my methodology for my study. I've actually recruited 15 adolescents with dyslexia aged from 13 to 16. And what they need to do is to capture photograph relating to 2 key questions that I'll show you later. And based on this, they need to capture 6 images for each of these questions within 4 weeks. After that, they will go through a semi-structured interview where I will ask them questions as to why they took this photo and what it means to them. So now, let me show you the 2 key questions. What does dyslexia mean to you? As well as, how do you think others view dyslexia? You may be thinking, why adolescents and why not younger kids? Why not maybe a 7 or 8-year-old student? What I feel is, having this question is rather abstract, and our younger students may not be able to understand and might not able to comprehend how am I going to share this with you. Which is why I think it's better that we have students aged from 13 to 16. At least we feel that they are more comfortable sharing with us their thoughts. Next, you may be thinking, why photograph and not art? I couldn't really expect my participants to actually go about carrying art resources. And when some thoughts came spontaneously, they were just, they need to look for chairs, they need to look for tables to actually sit down and draw. So because of that time and genuinity, something, it may not be as appropriate. And why photography? Because of what we have now, technology, and most of our adolescents actually have mobile phones with camera functions, and they really like to take photos. I'm sure every one of you now, in your photo bank, there'll be close to 1,000 images, I believe. So, which is why this is what I really feel that it may be more accessible for my participants. Now, let me go to the next topic, which is my findings. Okay, I have a few titles: ease of use of photography, positive and negative feelings about dyslexia, alignment of perception with significant others, as well as the change of perception of significant others. These are quote directly from my participants themselves. They say that using photography in the interview session actually helps them through what they want to talk about. It's extremely easier. What these participants what he meant was, it is easier for him to actually tell me what he wants to talk about. Next up, he mentioned that it helps him, it acts as a reminder, a prompt. So whenever he has issues thinking about what he wanted to say, when he look at the photo, it actually helps him to talk better. And another participant says that picture actually have like 1,000 words. What he meant was, an image may have different meanings as long as you are able to have time to understand and listen to what he wants to say. This is my next finding: positive feelings participants have on dyslexia. Okay, over here you see 2 images. So the one on top with 2 superheroes was taken by a participant where he felt he has a positive attitude towards dyslexia. He feels that he didn't want to give up at all, and he has the feeling that he's going to win the battle. He's going to overcome dyslexia. The next image actually shows a sea of blue sad faces surrounding a yellow smiley face. So this participant mentioned that he feels that he can score better than most of his non-dyslexic peers. It doesn't really matter whether he's dyslexic or not. And he feels that he can still do whatever anyone else can do. So it doesn't really matter at all. And he's feeling happy about it. Okay, the next one will be negative feelings that participants have on dyslexia. There's 2 images here. So one of it actually shows a word search puzzle that one of the participants took during her lesson. So whenever she come across textbooks or reading passages, it feels all jumbled up, just like a word search puzzle. And most of the time she feels frustrated. She don't know how to read and how to understand what she read. And usually she will end up feeling burdened and left out in class, and sometimes feel like giving up. This participant took a picture of a laundry basket. So he mentioned that this basket actually represents a cage. He feels trapped, he feels stuck. And each time he faces challenges, it just feels that the wall is getting higher and higher each time. And he feels that he couldn't get out and he couldn't overcome dyslexia. Next up, this is my other findings. Perspective of significant others, especially for friends, peers. So there are 3 images here. The first one you see is a blank space in black. So these participants feel that as long as his peer hear him talking about dyslexia, they just went completely blank. And that is when generalization or stereotype happens, where they just think that, oh, when you talk about dyslexia, it means that you're stupid, you're just being lazy, you're being careless, and you're not working hard enough. Next is a photograph of a puppy. So these participants say that she feels that friends around her who notice about her dyslexia thinks she's an alien. And the only single being that will not judge her was her little dog. Next up, this image shows a written cardboard by this participant, B arrowed D, WAS was arrowed SAW. What these participants feel and what it represents for him is that whenever his friends think and talk about dyslexia, they often generalize that as long as you talk about dyslexia means you have issues differentiating letters, differentiating words. So what they feel is, oh, dyslexia, right? That means you have BD problems, BD reversal problems. Is that so? Is that what you are? So he feels that the overgeneralization doesn't really does him justice. Okay, next theme is perception of significant others, family. So siblings included. So this is an image of a Chinese textbook. And these participants actually mentioned that she's being tasked to actually tutor her younger brother. Being the oldest, you are usually being tasked to actually help your younger ones. So what she feels is whenever it's time to actually help him, he will question her. You can't even read, so why are you here tutoring me? So it's obvious that she's facing power struggle and most of the time some self-doubt as well. She knows that she has difficulty reading. So she did question herself, why am I teaching you? Because I don't even understand what I'm teaching you. For the same participants, she has a younger sister as well. So she mentioned that something really nice her sister did for her was to get her a really nice pen and to constantly motivate her and encourage her, to tell her not to give up no matter what. And use this pen to remind you that you are special. Next up is an image of Care Bears of different sizes and different colors. These participants feel that Care Bears represent care and love that her friends and teacher actually showered her with. So each time she looked at them, it actually helped her to remind herself not to give up, and no matter what, your loved one will be there for you. Okay, this image is rather interesting because it shows how this participant's mom actually came through with from the point where she learned about her daughter's dyslexia all the way from understanding how to help her and motivate her. So initially when her mom realized about her dyslexia, she doesn't know how to help her. So when she's trying to coach her during for her spelling, for even her comprehension, she has issue understanding why isn't her daughter understand what she says. So most of the time, the coaching session will end up with mom tearing out her paper, tearing out whatever worksheet she has, because mom was feeling too frustrated. But maybe a year or so later, she feels that her mom came to terms with it and tried to actually go for courses and understand how to help her better. And from then on, she actually keep encouraging her daughter on how to actually move on and not to dwell on the same old thing. Just help yourself get better and a lot of hard work. Okay, now we are here in alignment of perception. So most of our participants, 4 out of 6 of them, actually have their perception aligned with their family. And about half of the participants feel that their perception does not align with their peers. So after more questioning and asking my participants, they feel that they do not wish to change any of their friends or family's thoughts about their learning differences. And they would rather spend time on other more important things like going out with friends, hanging out with friends, and study even more. Like they know that being dyslexic will require them to work harder than their peers, so they rather spend time on that than to change their friends' perspective. I've also feel that most of the participants with aligned perception, whether or not with their families or peers, seem to exhibit behaviors that indicates high confidence level and positive self-esteem, which is something that I thought future studies may look into. Just to sum up a conclusion, I feel that through the interview, both participants and myself felt positive about it. They feel that it has created a very comfortable environment for them to share their thoughts, and photographs actually help as prompt for them to talk about their feelings. Next, I've also found out self-awareness in them. They are aware of their learning difficulties and they are not afraid to share about their learning differences as well. So they are willing to tell me what they feel about themselves. They are able to self-disclose about their learning differences. And most of my participants feel that there's a need to fight for their learning needs. So what they do is they are not afraid to come up to talk to their teachers that, oh, I need extra time for this assignment because I need more time to understand what I'm supposed to do. So self-advocacy. Lastly, creative representation. Based on this image, these participants took a picture of some green peas, coated green peas. So what he says was, green pea represent the similarities as well as the difference between him and his peers. So we are the same, but we are different in our own ways. Next, these 2 participants actually took an image of a clock, but what they say was different. So one of them said that time meant that she didn't have time to hang out with her friends. So she needs to spend a lot of time for enrichment classes, tuition, and all, but she doesn't have time for her friends. But another participant mentioned that time means more time to process information, more time to do more things. So what time actually represent for them is different. So it's also something that future researchers may consider. So I've actually compiled them together. So future research may consider looking into the alignment of perception. So it did seem to have higher confidence level and positive self-esteem, as well as possible gender differences, reason for participants to take similar objects, for example, the clock just now. Moving forward, what we can do with images. Having images in classes where you allow your students to actually do photojournaling. So talk about how they feel using images, and they can actually draw on it at the side and to actually explain what these images mean to them. It will actually help them to open up to you, to build a better rapport and healthy relationship with the teacher, so that when time comes, it's easy for them to share, even though it could be just a day-to-day activity. Okay. For more images and more information about this research study, you can actually look into the journal, the book of journals that we have. The one that have this study is volume 4, number 1, the January 2017 issue. In here, you can find more images of the 6 participants and whatever comments they have in there. With that, I shall end this session. Thank you so much.
That was a very interesting presentation on the ease of using images for students with dyslexia to actually express themselves. So thank you, Ms. Sharen Ong. We would now like to invite Ms. Fanny to present a token of appreciation to Ms. Sharen Ong.